What up? It's your boy Wall Street, and I'm back. Got some more hoops talk that I'm trying to bring to the forefront today. And I want to talk about Chris Paul, aka CP3. And Chris Paul has made it known that this upcoming season will likely be his last. He did an interview with Jemele Hill on Jemele Hill's platform. I believe she has a talk show or something like that. And he was basically saying that he's got a year left at most. And, he doesn't really know where he's going yet, but, he's got some time to think about it. And, he would like to play next season. But next season will likely be his last. So we talked about, his family and, that he's missed out on a lot of family time with, his kids and his wife, his grandmother, who's still in North Carolina. And, it makes sense. He's spent half of his life in the league. Chris Paul is 40 years old. He's been in the league for 20 years. He was drafted in the 2005 NBA draft. He won Rookie of the Year that season. He was the 4th overall pick by the New Orleans Hornets. He spent the early part of his career in Oklahoma City, actually, because of Hurricane Katrina, and the Hornets had to relocate to Oklahoma City for a while. But he's had an illustrious NBA career. So wherever he signs, I think he's going to have a very solid farewell tour, and the fans are going to love him. I think Chris Paul is one of those guys that, a lot of people do dislike him because of what he did to their teams back in the day. But at the end of the day, you got to respect the greatness and understand just how important Chris Paul is to the game of basketball and the NBA as a whole. So 12-time NBA All-Star, 4-time All-NBA first team, 5-time All-NBA second team, 2-time All-NBA third team, 7-time NBA All-Defensive first team, 2-time NBA All-Defensive second team. Just the list goes on. He's led the league in assists 5 seasons, led the league in steals for 6 seasons. He's a no-brainer Hall of Famer, and the only thing that's really missing is a ring. But I think at this point, I don't know if he really cares that much. If he gets the ring or not, it would be great. If he does, if he doesn't, whatever, he's still had an amazing career. But I want to talk about the teams that I think would make sense for Chris Paul to join realistically for this upcoming season that will, presumably be his last season in the league. And there's 4 teams I have in mind that I think make sense just in terms of stuff that I've heard him say about his career and what he's looking to do, and just generally, right, in terms of fit, all that stuff. So the first one on that list is the Los Angeles Lakers. He mentioned in this interview with Jemele Hill that his kids and his wife have been in LA for the past 6 seasons while he's been out of LA. He spent time with the Spurs, the Thunder, the Phoenix Suns, the Golden State Warriors. So it would make a lot of sense for him, off the court, right? He can be closer to his family. He can, be in his house where, his family lives, all that stuff, right? And he's very close with LeBron James. I just don't think he's really going to have an opportunity to start or play, as many minutes as he was playing in San Antonio last season. He was playing about 28 or 29 minutes a game last season, started every single game for the Spurs, played all 82 games. I believe he set a record for the only NBA player ever to play and start all 82 games in his 20th NBA season. So absolutely incredible. But yeah, he's probably not going to get as much playing time on the Lakers. He played 28 minutes per game last season with the Spurs. And I think this is a move more so for the off the court, stuff that he can do, right? Like he can be close to his family. He can, be teammates with his friend LeBron James. And he can help, the young guys on this team learn and, become better players. I think Luka Doncic would, truly benefit from having Chris Paul on the roster, in the locker room, at practice. Austin Reeves, I think, as well would benefit from it. But, it doesn't make a ton of sense if he's trying to play a lot. But it could make sense if he's trying to just kind of, be that veteran presence, be a guy that can come in off the bench, and facilitate the offense a little bit, be a pesky defender. And he would link up with his old Phoenix Suns teammate DeAndre Ayton, who was, bought out by the Portland Trail Blazers and then signed with the Lakers. So I think it could make sense. Do I think he'll end up there? I think it's more likely than some of the other options I'm going to name, but we'll get to that. So Lakers are the first one that I'm thinking of, and this is in no particular order of like if I think it's going to happen or not. I'll get to that at the end, but Lakers are the first one. The Oklahoma City Thunder are the second one. So Oklahoma City Thunder, I think, make a lot of sense because, again, gives Chris Paul a really good chance to win a ring before he retires. He spent time in Oklahoma City previously, before they were, as great as they are now. So he has relationships with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He has a relationship with Lou Dort. These are guys that he really bonded with when he was in OKC, being away from his family. And I think that means a lot to him. Again, probably would not get a ton of playing time, but this is a very young team, a very good young team, and I think Chris Paul would offer a lot of guidance and advice and just, would be super helpful to these guys in their growth and their development. The other thing about this is, like I said, he did spend the beginning part of his career in Oklahoma City because New Orleans, had to basically relocate the team due to Hurricane Katrina and the aftermath that came from it. So this would kind of be a full circle moment. It's like, you started in Oklahoma City, albeit for a different franchise, but now you can also retire going out where you started in Oklahoma City. So I think that would be a cool option. Again, it's really just like this is a ring chaser type of thing, and being able to be that veteran force in the locker room to help these young guys grow and improve. So that's another option. The third option, which I think doesn't make really any sense, and I don't think it's going to happen, but it could happen, is the Charlotte Hornets. Right. Obviously, the Charlotte Hornets are not the same franchise that he played for in New Orleans. That franchise is now known as the New Orleans Pelicans, but Chris Paul is from North Carolina. He mentioned in this interview with Jamel Hill that his grandmother still lives in North Carolina, I believe in Winston-Salem, and it would just be the opportunity for Chris Paul to be able to play in front of his family that's still in North Carolina. Right? They could come to the games. He could spend time with them. He was saying, you never know how much time you have with your family members and stuff like that, which I understand. If you've had a grandparent pass or anything like that, you understand that time is valuable with them, especially when they get into the later years of their life. So Chris Paul's 40. I can only imagine, how old his grandmother is. So that's probably an important thing for him as well. But it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to go to Charlotte. Again, I don't think that makes a ton of sense from a on the court perspective, because he's probably not going to start over LaMelo Ball. He's probably not going to play in the starting lineup with LaMelo Ball. So he's going to have to come off the bench. The team hasn't made the playoffs in multiple seasons now. And the health of LaMelo Ball is a question mark. So, you don't really know what you're signing up for there. And that's kind of like, I'm just going to this team because I want to be closer to my family. That would be the only reason. So I don't think that's going to happen, which leads me to the fourth team that I think is the best fit for Chris Paul, and that's the Phoenix Suns. So if you guys remember, Chris Paul played 3 seasons for the Phoenix Suns, from 2020 to 2023, and he was able to take that Phoenix Suns team to the NBA Finals. The 2020 to 21 season, the NBA Finals was the Phoenix Suns versus the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks obviously won the title. Giannis won his first title in his career. And the Suns were, left defeated. And after that, the team changed dramatically. Chris Paul was still on the team for several seasons after that, but DeAndre Ayton winded up getting shipped out. There was a lot of stuff that changed, and it seemed like they were kind of defeated, right? I think at this point now the Phoenix Suns have moved on from Bradley Beal. They've traded Kevin Durant. And now it's really Devin Booker's team again. And, Devin Booker and Chris Paul had great chemistry. I feel like they really got along on the court. I believe they were also very good friends off the court. Chris Paul actually has a chance to start for the Phoenix Suns team, because if you look at their point guard depth, they don't really have a point guard. So that's a problem that we cited a long while ago too, when they had Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant. They didn't have a point guard, right? And they brought in Tyus Jones. We all thought that would help. It didn't really work out. They didn't really use him the way that they needed to use him. And now now they're in the similar situation where they're kind of saying Devin Booker's going to be the point guard, but I don't think that makes a lot of sense. So if I'm the Phoenix Suns, I'm looking at Chris Paul and being like, okay, if we can sign Chris Paul, this basically slots down our lineup a little bit better, because right now the projected depth chart is Devin Booker at the 1, Jalen Green at the 2, Royce O'Neal at the 3, Dillon Brooks at the 4, and Mark Williams at the 5, with Kaman Maluach coming off the bench as the first center off the bench. So he's going to be like the 6th man probably. You also got Grayson Allen coming off the bench, so that's a solid, depth at the wing. But I think what you could do here is you move Devin Booker to the 3, keep Jalen Green at the 2. You move Royce O'Neal to the bench, keep Dillon Brooks at the 4, keep Mark Williams at the 5, and you slot Chris Paul in at the point guard slot. Because the backup point guard to Devin Booker is Colin Gillespie, who I like personally, but I don't think that's a guy that's really going to, get your team to the playoffs. And this team is not rebuilding, they're, quote unquote, retooling, but they're looking to compete. So would I rather have Devin Booker at the point, or would I move Devin Booker to the 3 and have Chris Paul at the point? Definitely doing Chris Paul at the point. You know what I'm saying? So I think that if that can be what it is, that is the best fit for Chris Paul. And I think that's the best spot that he can go to finish out his NBA career, because it gives him a chance to play, gives him a chance to win, and it gives him a chance to play in front of fans that love him. Right? Like, these Phoenix Suns fans obviously remember Chris Paul and remember what he was able to do for that, that team and that city. So that would be my move. I think I would put the Lakers second to that, and then I'd put Oklahoma City 3, and then Charlotte at 4, right? And there's obviously other options. I'm sure there's going to be other offers on the table for Chris Paul, but at the end of the day, like, it's his last year in the league. I don't think money is an issue. The guy's made over $400 million, in NBA contracts throughout his 20 years in the league. So I think it's really a matter of, where do I want to be, and, will it work the way I want it to work? It's not about money at this point. So I'm a huge fan of Chris Paul. I've seen Chris Paul play live, seen him play when he was on the Clippers, and the guy is just such an inspiration, because, I'm not a dude that's like, super tall. I wouldn't say I'm short, but like I grew up being, a guard, right? And I'm still kind of in that role when I go and play basketball. So Chris Paul to me was very inspirational, because he was a guy that showed that you could be a impactful defender as a guy that's like 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2", right? You didn't have to be a 7-footer blocking shots to be a guy that could get considered for Defensive Player of the Year, right? And Chris Paul never won Defensive Player of the Year, but I think he was a big reason why we later on saw Marcus Smart win Defensive Player of the Year, right? Because people started looking at guards, specifically smaller point guards, way different when it came to their defensive prowess, because of Chris Paul and how he was able to get, deflections, lead the league in steals, be a pesky defender that made, opposing guards work up the court, right? I think that's a lot of what probably inspired Patrick Beverley, to be the player that he is today as well. So I'm a big fan of Chris Paul. I'm looking forward to, watching him throughout his final season. But it's definitely going to be sad when he hangs it up. So I'm not sure if I'm ready for that yet. But that's all I got, guys. Let me know your thoughts on the video. Let me know what you think about Chris Paul entering his final season. Where do you think he should spend his last year in the league? Want to know your thoughts. So please leave some comments down below. And I'm going to check you guys later, man. Stay up, stay blessed, stay safe, stay humble, handle business, stand on business. Peace out.